Before Israel, before the Exodus, before Yahweh, there was a culture that covered the land with cities, temples, and gods, giving us the sacred letters we still use today. They never built vast domains, but they dominated trade, myth, and survival. Later, they will be called Phoenicians, but before that, the Levant was home to the Canaanites. And if you think they were merely the villains of the Bible, get ready to meet the real protagonists of Holy Land. And no, most of them didn't sacrifice babies, nor were they inherently more evil than the Hebrews, but we'll get to that. Let's go back to the 3rd millennium BC. History tells us that while the Tigris and Euphrates gave life to the kingdoms of Mesopotamia, the Semitic Canaanites, sons and daughters of the Amorites and Akkadians, were watching, learning, and reinventing. Living in cities like Mari and Haran, the Canaanites shared more than trade with the Sumerians and Babylonians. They also really liked their gods. El, the supreme deity of the Canaanites, resembled Anu. Baal, the storm god, echoed Enlil and Adad, and Astarte, with her fury and seduction, was probably imitating Ishtar. Astarte was a Canaanite goddess. You learn something new every day. But the Canaanites didn't simply copy, they inherited. Where Mesopotamia had the mythical Marduk defeating Tiamat, the Canaanites told of Baal battling a sea god. On the tablets of Ugarit, written over 3,300 years ago, are the stories that bridge the myths of the East and the future gods of the Mediterranean. Without the Canaanite gods, we might have never heard of names like Zeus or Yahweh. By 2000 BC, the Middle Bronze Age had begun in the Levant, and a network of cities was flourishing between the waves of the Mediterranean and the sands of Arabia. The ancient Ebla, later Hazor, Byblos, Ugarit, Jericho, and Sidon didn't form a unified nation. They were independent city-states, small kingdoms linked by trade and religion. Their lives were constantly threatened by war, raids, and droughts, forging people both unbreakable and a little bit cynical.
Malish, the city of Byblos has threatened to go at war with us.
Again? Couldn't they just ask for more wine?
And they also want your wife.
Let them have her. They have no idea what a great favor they're doing me. While the Canaanites built walled cities and carved their gods in stone, they were far from isolated from the wider world. Canaan wasn't a forgotten corner between mountains, it was a corridor. You see all those bright patches on the map? Those are empires, and they were anything but peaceful. In the 1300s BC, Canaan was a chessboard where Egyptian, Hittite, and Mesopotamian pieces moved. Pharaoh Akhenaten, the one who adored the god who was a physical son with little hands, received language letters from Canaanite leaders, real letters written in clay and found at Amarna. The most persistent of these was Rib-Hadda, king of Byblos, a man desperate for, not being conquered. He sent more than 60 letters begging for help against foreign invasions. You know how many times the pharaoh replied? Once. Meanwhile, small cities like Jerusalem, Megiddo, and Shechem did what they could: bribe, swear loyalty, resist. But if the Egyptians didn't come, others did. The Habiru, similar sounding names, people loosely linked to the ancient Hebrews. They were bandits, refugees, or masterless nomads raiding the fields. The Marianu, Mitanni chariot warriors, appeared like shadows at dusk and destroyed anything in their path. And farther north, the Hittites were smelling blood like sharks. On the maps, Egypt controlled Canaan, but in reality, they ruled from a distance, with underpaid garrisons peasants, corrupt officials, and an army that preferred to stay home pretending to worship the sun rather than die in the hills of Galilee. But domination and neglect did not stop the Canaanites. The scribes of Ugarit copied myths that still echo in our culture, and inland farmers, crushed by taxes and wars, still sang to Baal for the rains to come. Because in Canaan, tragedy was a common occurrence, and their gods protected them unconditionally. Talking about gods, the Canaanite religion was complex, intense, and just as dramatic as the Mesopotamian one. At the top was El, the ancient creator god of the universe, but the real star of the show was Baal. And to make the long story short, he was the Canaanite version of Zeus. In the myths, we'll have Baal battling with the sea god Jam, used to end up dying while fighting the death god Mot, only to return to life, like every good cyclical hero. I challenge you, Mot. Give me back my kingdom.
This again. I've already killed you twice this month.
Silence! Can anyone get some sleep in this pantheon?
Also in the cast was Anat, Baal's sister, a warrior goddess with an appetite for blood, literally. Let's skip the details, shall we? And Asherah, wife of El, mother goddess associated with sacred trees, and perhaps once the consort of Yahweh in the earliest Hebrew temples. Ooh, a bit of pre-biblical gossip. So yeah, the Canaanite gods are more drama than a Latin telenovela, like any good pantheon does. But Canaan wasn't just cold and throwing hands at each other. The Canaanites had something far more revolutionary up their sleeve, a new writing system you might have never heard of, called the alphabet. Around 1800 BC, in Egyptian-controlled mines at Serabit el-Kadim in the Sinai, the first known phonetic alphabet was born, the Proto-Sinaitic. This system simplified the complex art of writing. Instead of 600 Egyptian or cuneiform symbols, you only needed about 30 letters to express the same information. The result, the foundation of the Phoenician alphabet, which led to the Greek, the Latin, and of course, the same one that you're using to argue with strangers on the internet. To put it bluntly, without the Canaanites, you'd be watching this video in hieroglyphs. Good luck subtitling that.
Do I have to write barley bread for the workers in hieroglyphics again?
What if we just used a picture for each sound, like the turquoise workers next door?
That would be blasphemy against our Egyptian masters. I'm interested!
But beyond the alphabet, the Canaanites mastered maritime trade, especially in cities like Byblos and Sidon. Even under constant war and imperial domination, Canaan prospered. They traded wood, metals, textiles, and meats. Their ideas traveled with them. Even Egypt imported Canaanite gods, cause everyone loves the Mesopotamian style. Am I right? For many hundreds of years, the merchants of Sidon and Tyre loaded their ships with glass, oil, and purple dye, even before creating that reddish-purple hue that will one day immortalize them all as the legendary Phoenicians. Canaanite culture looked remarkably similar to what centuries later will become early Israelite culture. They spoke related languages, they had similar names, and they worshipped the same gods. Yes, at first the Hebrews also worshipped El, Asherah, and perhaps even Baal. The difference only came when one group of Hebrews embraced a new name, Yahweh, and made him the only god permitted, creating one of the most exclusive and zealous religions of his time. Even the term Elohim in the very first verse of the Bible is clear evidence of Canaanite influence. But before that, the Hebrews were something completely different.
Who did you sacrifice your lamb to today?
To El, and you?
To Yahweh, but sometimes also to Baal, just in case.
Are you polytheistic or just superstitious?
Yes.
Archaeology has shown that the earliest Israelites emerged from within Canaan's culture, not as foreign invaders. So the Canaanites weren't foreign enemies, they were the ancestors, cousins, uncles, neighbors, the doctor, the barber, the actress. It's a bit odd for the Bible to be so xenophobic towards their own ancestors. It's like being a Latin American, seeing a Spaniard from 300 years ago and saying, "Ugh, disgusting." Although modern Spanish people, I have great affection for you, truly. What the heck is your government doing to your country? The infamous child sacrifices, often attributed to the Canaanites, have been the subject of fierce debate among archaeologists. Some findings, such as funerary urns in Carthage and Tyre, suggest there might have been rituals involving children, but there is no consensus on their frequency or context. Some scholars believe these were burials of children who died naturally and were later ritually dedicated. Others argue that human sacrifice did occur, but only in extreme or highly specific contexts. In any case, the image of a people obsessed with killing babies is more biblical demonizing to justify the invasion of Canaan than historical reality. At the heart of Canaan, the stories that would one day form the Bible were already taking shape. Gods who spoke with humans, since El also spoke with mortals. Promised lands and sacred mountains like Mount Zaphon, and names that still resonate today. Jericho, Jerusalem, and Sidon, all central to Hebrew faith, yet built and named by Canaanites. Even the name of Israel ends with 2 letters, inherited from the original inhabitants of the Levant. The Canaanites might have never conquered great lands, but they planted ideas that conquered the world: the alphabet, maritime trade, purple dye, and the myths that will inspire the 3 largest religions on earth. Their name might have been erased from history and demonized by the Hebrews, but their legacy is written in every word we speak. So the next time you write a comment on a YouTube video, like this one for example, or send a text to your ex, say thank you to a Canaanite. If you learned something new, give the video a like and subscribe for more history and mythology, with a touch of storytelling and some visual novel style as well. It's been a pleasure, as always. Ciao.